What is up, gamers? Welcome to another Furry tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about how to anthropomorphize a body. How do we give our furry character a body if we've already drawn it? So, usually I like to begin with a character's body and then just add a head on top because I find that a lot easier for me personally. But I understand everyone's different. I understand that it's easier sometimes to plan out like where the head goes and then add a body later. Whatever method's best for you, you can do in that area. So when we look at something and we want to learn how to draw it, we look at references first. However, there's a problem. With furries, there tends to be at least 3 different versions of their leg types. So obviously, the top half of a furry is pretty standard across most of them. The only thing that really changes is if it's more muscular, more fat, if depending on like breast, no breast. That's usually pretty standard. But what about the legs? So we're going to be looking first at the 3 types of legs that you most see. First type is called Plantigrade. So Plantigrade, spelled Plantigrade. This is the first type. Plantigrade legs are what we have. The terms I'm using, by the way, generate from the fursuiting community, so please be aware that if you look up terms like this, you may get pictures of fursuits. Be aware. I know fursuits are scary for some people. Plantigrade is the legs that we have. It is usually categorized by a thigh, a knee, a calf, that leads to walking on a flat foot. So your range of movement comes from your knee, that moves like this, and your foot. This is about your range of motion. It also has separate toes that move. So this is Plantigrade. This is what we have. If you want to draw a furry character that has a Plantigrade style, so just like this, that's okay. You can draw a dog or a cat with legs that move like this. No one's going to come to your house. No one's going to police you. I think that this Plantigrade style is really good when you're drawing anthropomorphic characters for things like D&D or Skyrim. Characters that are meant to just be animal people that are just humans, essentially. That just look like animals. A next one we're going to have is called Digigrade. Digigrade is a little bit more complicated. This is where you have your traditional animal leg. So, like, for example, I'm going to be showing a picture of real animal legs, but also fursuit legs in progress. These are Digigrade legs. I have real animals here, so I have dogs, cats. This is where you can see we have a joint. Let me find a pink. We have a joint here, it looks like. We have a joint here. We have the toes here. So bam, 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 toes. So instead of having our normal points of movement like we have in our Plantigrade up here, it's a little bit more complex. So you can kind of see we have, well, that's maybe the thigh we can translate. This is kind of like the knee. Is this the foot? What? It's important that you don't try to translate this to human anatomy. You can, but oftentimes it just gets a little confusing. The best way to think about this is that they're walking on their toes, their tippy toes. So if you want to translate to human terms, it would be like, here's your leg, here's your knee, and then here's your foot, and you're walking on your tippy toes. So we have thigh, calf, and foot. That's kind of what we're doing here. You're always kind of walking with bent knees on your tippy toes. That's why I said it's a little hard to translate into human anatomy, because like this is so strange. You won't be able to find human references for this. The best thing to do is to do regular animals, or to break it down in what I call the stick joint method, which is what I've kind of done here. I like to take the points where I can see bends, draw little circles, and then connect it with sticks. And I like to try to find the same angle that my furry character is going to be standing at. Usually it's this angle right here, or it's a bit of a 3/4 angle, like this one. And I like to just directly take the skeletons of my reference image and put that on my real image and then just draw my legs over it and be like, oh yeah, it's my work, haha. I feel like that's so much easier. But another really, really, really good method, similar to looking at mythical animals in our last couple videos, looking at fursuits. I know fursuits are scary, but these are genuinely the best things you can reference. Fursuit Digigrade legs, which is where the term comes from, are people trying to take normal human legs and making them into animal legs. So we can see here, this is a bend. So using our line method, this is another bend, and this is our toes. So you can kind of see, bam, 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 bam. Same thing here. Bam, 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 bam. That's so cool. It's so cool that I can just find a fursuiter standing in the pose that I want, and like, bam, that's my reference material. Isn't that crazy? And oftentimes, this is so much more reliable than searching up dog standing on its hind legs and then having to search through like 50 million images of funny dogs standing on their leg videos to find the right image. This is so much easier to reference, and I love doing this. So we have another third type of leg that we want to address, and this one's a little bit confusing. This one's another fursuit term. This one's called Stilt Digigrade. This is something that we might have heard of a little bit before, but you don't know that you've heard about it. This is the type that most werewolves are. So Stilt Digigrade, we're going to look at another reference. This is what werewolves are. So this oftentimes is a human leg that has been stretched out to an animal-like proportion. So instead of our normal bam, bam, bam reference, we have a thigh to a knee, then we have what looks like to a foot, then we have down, and then the character's walking on the toes. They're not walking flat on the foot, they're walking on the toes. So we have a little bit of an extension here, which is very unique. So you can see how it differs from Digigrade a little bit, because instead of the animal's like toes being the bottom of their foot, we kind of have an angle to the toes. You see? Where we're walking truly on tippy toe now. So a good thing to reference on this one is looking up Stilt Digigrade suits. You're going to get people who have made these wonderful contraptions here to actually walk like most werewolves do. So we're going to be able to see, like, oh, that's your knee. Oh, that's the foot. Here we go. There's the toes you're working on. So this is a great angle. I love this angle. And you're also going to get fantastic back angles for this as well. This also is how horses will walk. So a lot of times when you're drawing a horse, you're going to have that awkward like, oh, well, I have to draw them standing on their tippy toe. There we go, I guess. And that's fine. Remember that legs are incredibly difficult, and they can be as simple or as complicated as you want them to be. It's fine. So, when we start drawing this, we're going to finish our diagram here. So Digigrade, we've learned kind of as a bamp, bamp, bamp. So that's our reference for that. Stilt Digigrade, we know it's like a bamp, bamp, bamp. So, what about drawing the top half? We've gone on a whole rant about legs, and we don't even know how to draw, like, the titty yet. That's the fun part. It's just a human, guys. I cannot stress enough about how the top half of a furry is just a human. Like, so you can do your normal human techniques for this, like the box method, for example, or the t-shirt method. So I have my furry here, whatever, Jim Bob McGee, and I can just give him a normal human torso with like giant arms or something. And like, there we go. That's my top half. That's why we focus so much on legs, because legs truly are the hardest part of drawing a furry body. Legs and paws are going to be the most complicated things you have to draw, and that's okay. So for this one, for example, I'm going to want to draw him facing forward. So I'm going to find my reference image of my animal facing forward, which is this one, remember? I want to do Digigrade. So, I see from my reference image here that it kind of goes like a little bit of a angle shape. So, looking here, I can see, it looks like I'm supposed to go bam, bam at the hip joints. Then I do a little bam, bam. And for this one, I do a little bam, bam. And that looks like about my angle that I want to draw. So now I just have to, give him thighs. Bam. Oh, look at that. Now Jim Bog McGee is a real furry, guys. Because I've drawn these legs for him. If I want to draw plantigrades, I literally just do the exact same thing. So I got my little guy here. I give him... Oh, I don't know. Let's give him a human. Woman upper half. We'll transfer real quick. Except now, I want to draw a plantigrade, meaning it's going to have regular human legs. So instead, I'm going to just give her regular old human legs. Except I want to also give her paws, so I'm just going to do bop, 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 bop. She's got paws now, guys. Look at that. She got little paws. Same thing. It's super, super easy. The top half of the body is just a human top half. And then you can maybe throw on some more human legs and just end it with little paws if you want. Or you can go a little complicated. The best thing for this also is that if you're watching a TV show or a movie or some kind of media that you're consuming and you want to reference that for your legs, you can. I started out with My Little Pony. So for a long time, I drew pony legs. So pony legs, if you've seen the show, are super, super simple. It's literally just 2 joints. So I have this top joint here, and then I have a joint where this leg is. So for a long time, my furry legs just looked like this, and that was fine. People could still tell that I was drawing an anthropomorphic character with animal-like legs. It didn't matter if they had Twilight Sparkle legs. They could still tell. And that's fine. You don't have to stress about making your drawing super anatomically correct. Because I guarantee it looks like a furry. If it barks, or it quacks, or it meows, or whatever, and it has fur or scales, or it's something that's not human, it's probably fine. You've probably drawn a furry. People can tell. They like it. They love it. You're doing great. So now we get to the biggest question of all. When we draw furries, and we draw the beautiful set of arms for them, are we drawing paws or hands for these guys? Because we have things like warrior cats, where the anthropomorphic characters in that one have paws. But you also have things like Zootopia where they have more like hands, and like Beastars where they have hands. What's the right option there? Should we draw paws for our character, or should we draw hands? What's the better option? How do we draw claws? This is super simple. The answer for this is whatever you feel like drawing. So for me, I like drawing paws. I think that that is very adept for my style. But sometimes if I want a character to look more dexterous or be able to do more things, I will give them hands. So obviously hands are every artist's weakness. So I'm going to just start by doing my method for drawing hands here, which is the box method. I'm sure we're all familiar with. So if I want my furry character to just have something like this is fine. If I want to just outline this and say like, yep, this is what my guy looks like. This is what he does. He like holds stuff. It doesn't matter if he's a wolf or a raccoon. This is his hands. That's fine. You can even give this paw pads if you really want to. Usually if people do hands, they will do the paw pads at the ends of the finger, and then they'll do a central paw pad. Same thing with claws. They'll just make them look like pointy fingernails usually. And this is fine. Your furry hand or your furry paw can look like this. Actual paws tend to come in two varieties. You have the hand paw and you have the paw paw. The hand paw is taking our basic ideas from here. So I tend to start with the box method. And usually furry paws have 4 toes on them. So for hand paws, they tend to take one toe and make it the thumb. And the other toe are like really, really fat fingers. So for this one, it's kind of like a Mickey Mouse glove, as weird as that sounds, where it's just like a really, really fat hand. And they tend to draw their paw pads a little bit bigger and take up more real estate. And then there's their paw pad, kind of in the center. And then we draw some little pointy claws on top. And this is also okay. This is the hand paw. So now when we get to a traditional paw, it's a little bit different. Because we, instead of starting with the box method like we usually have, we start with more of like a curved shape. And we're going to be drawing it in the same position as these. So for this one, we tend to actually start with little circle nubs, kind of all over. So I like to just do 4 circles, kind of around the paw like this. We move to ink. You start by just outlining those circles. Now for real paws, their paw pads tend to take up the most space. And their paw pad is centered around these top 2 beans. And then the claws tend to be the biggest on these ones, and they tend to be the bulkiest because the toes are bigger. So your furry can either have a hand paw, or a paw. And that's completely fine. Your furry can have whatever mix you want. You can have a plantigrade with a hand, and that's fine. It's just a guy that looks like a raccoon. Who cares? You can go super, super animalistic. You can have the Digigrade with this one, and that's completely fine. You can have a Stilt Digigrade with a hand paw, and that's completely fine. It doesn't matter. I promise. You're doing great. The fact that you're willing to draw something that's so difficult is completely great. You're doing fantastic. Furries are really, really hard to draw, and it's really hard to get them down. So now we're going to try and draw a body with Digigrade legs. and hand paws. So I'm going to start doing my tried and true body method. I just draw a box with some pecs and then what looks like a little underwear shape. I like to start with my position of my legs first because I find that it helps me a lot with positioning where my character stands. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my bam bams. I'm going to draw my legs out. I'm going to draw down. I'm going to check my reference image because I feel like I just did that horribly wrong and I'm going to fail. No, I'm fine. Okay. I just have to move this around. And that's why we look at references, guys. We're doing so great. So I'm going to move down here. And then we're going to go down. And then this is our other paw. So we have our outline here for our legs. Now I'm going to just draw my little arms here. I want to make him do a peace sign. So I'm going to just draw the outline here of my peace sign. Then draw my other hand here, just doing something. Now I'm going to add some meat to his legs. Now, I know this doesn't look like a lot, but it's okay. We're going to try to ink him now. This is the part where we really try to refine and do an actual sketch. So whenever you're drawing furry bodies, I tend to like to add little fluff kind of around their hip area and kind of give them almost like a pseudo happy trail. Because I don't like to imply that the furry characters got shit going on down there. But I still like to have implications to fill the empty space. So we have our leg going down. Then we have our paw. Whenever you're drawing paws, I like to kind of like give them a little 3-toe look because for some reason the 4 toes look really strange to me. I don't know what it is about them. I just don't like them. So I like making my paws look like they have 3 toes. But everyone's different, of course. The 4 toes might look fine for you. I just don't personally like them with my style. And apply some lines here. That's really good. Now we're going to kind of do these hands. So again, only 4 toes for our peace sign. So I draw the first paw pad here, the second paw pad, and the third paw doing the peace sign, and then the fourth folded over. I draw all my paw pads, do my fingernails, and draw my middle paw pad. And bam, peace sign. Same thing over here. I draw my arm down. I draw 1 toe sticking out, 2 toe, 3 toe, 4 toe. Then I draw my nails. We have no paw pads because it's facing down. And that was incredibly easy. We have a furry body now. Like, holy shit. We did it. If you want to erase a little bit. We have a whole furry body. And this also works for scalies, because dragons can have Plantigrade, Digigrade, or Stilt Digigrade. It doesn't matter. They're dragons. They're not real. Now, let's talk about tail placement. Whenever we draw our body like this, it's kind of difficult to figure out where the tail would go. I know some people like to draw it really up high, some people like to draw it really low. The best rule of thumb is to go where your crotch level is here, a little bit further down, and then just like move it to one of the sides. Because a lot of times the tail piece, like you know Mewtwo from Pokemon, how he has that like little purple piece that connects from his crotch here and then it leads to his tail. Imagine Furry Tail's doing the exact same thing. Because their tail comes from their tailbone, which is kind of in this general area. So you want to connect it from the tailbone out into the tail. This way it'll always look like it's coming from the proper place, and it'll always look correct. If we draw it too high sometimes, that's going to imply that the tail is kind of like above their like butt crack, and it can look a little weird sometimes. But if we draw it from this area, then it's kind of implied that it's coming from this general area where the tailbone is. So it looks a little bit more correct. Because with furries, it's a weird situation because obviously, you know, like they have a human butt. And it's like, we could draw the tail here, but then like, that looks a little strange, but you also can't make it where the tail's coming from the butt cheeks. So you kind of have to do this awkward thing where like you make their butt a weird shape to like fit the tail in so it doesn't look like it's just situated between the cheeks. This is a really weird rant. I'm so sorry. This came out of nowhere. Yeah, so the tail is a little strange. If you do place it weird, no one really cares. Just as long as it's like super strange, you're probably fine. I'm not gonna lie. And this is great, honestly. If you also want to look up more references, I personally recommend looking at Five Nights at Freddy's. I think that the way the segmenting for the animatronics is really, really good at breaking the body down into shapes. If you're unfamiliar with breaking bodies down and you just need more practice, find some reference images of the animatronics, trace out where their different parts are connected, and split that up. Because I feel like that's going to be a lot easier for you to kind of find your balance with the different parts and find where you need to segment a body. Obviously, all the animatronics are plantigrade, so they have human legs. They bend at the knee, and they sit on a flat foot. So if you want to draw a plantigrade, that's great to start. Other references include things like My Little Pony that I've mentioned before. Those have very, very simple Digigrade leggings. Also, looking at images of fursuits. Fursuits are your best friend. You can see the reference image I used earlier. That's from a work in progress fursuit. So we can kind of see how those Digigrade shapes lay. Animals, obviously, great reference. Werewolves of Media, also great reference for Stilt Digigrade. You can use some werewolves for regular Digigrade too, it just depends. Usually people like to go Stilt Digigrade because part of the horror of werewolves comes from them looking humanoid but stretched out. So that's really good. It all depends on what you personally vibe with. So I hope that this tutorial made sense. Let me know if you have any questions, any comments, if you need more help. Let me know. I'm always willing to help. I'm always willing to talk. I can make more follow-up videos breaking down these legs into better segments for you if you need to. I will catch you in another video, gamers. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye!